On Doomsday, my husband Malik sued me for divorce, accusing me of being a failed mother and an ungrateful wife. He even demanded every property we owned and full custody of our daughter, Amara. I sat there in that cold courtroom, hands trembling in my lap, waiting for the judge to read out the ruling that would determine the rest of my life. But before the story could reach its cruel ending, I heard a small voice from the back of the room. It was the voice of my 7-year-old daughter, Amara, asking the judge, "Your Honor, can I show you something my mommy doesn't know?" The entire room turned toward her. The judge paused, confused, and my heart nearly stopped. Malik's face twisted into something ugly, something desperate. The judge nodded his head slowly. My daughter stepped forward, raised her little tablet, and pressed the play button. When the video started, everyone in the room froze in stunned silence. I hadn't yet understood what was happening when the events of the earlier morning replayed in my head like a nightmare. I had woken up before dawn, unable to sleep, unable to breathe properly. The divorce hearing had hovered over me for weeks, a dark cloud sitting just above my skull, waiting to pour down its storm. Malik had spent months poisoning my name, telling the court I was unstable, irresponsible, too emotional, too careless, too everything he needed me to be to win custody. He told the judge I shouted at our daughter, that I forgot appointments, that I didn't clean, didn't cook, didn't pay attention, didn't care. None of it was true, but he said it all so calmly, so convincingly, that even I began to question my worth as a mother. His lawyer, with his slick hair and cold smile, presented a folder filled with manipulated photos of me crying, screenshots of messages taken out of context, and a written psychological evaluation by a so-called expert, Dr. Selena Hart, who sat smugly behind Malik in a navy blazer and perfectly ironed blouse. She had written in her professional report that I showed signs of emotional instability, impulsive behavior, and an inability to properly supervise a child. I had never even met that woman before the previous week, but I did remember the moment she forced a conversation on me in the hallway of the mall, asking leading questions, analyzing me with predatory precision. I didn't know then that she was already coordinating with Malik, preparing a trap. My lawyer, Attorney Dawson, fought like a lion for me. He objected to half the claims, argued against all the rest, but even he knew the weight of fabricated evidence was heavy. Malik had come prepared, too prepared. That was the part that broke me. How long had he been planning my downfall? How long had he been pretending to love me while building a cage to lock me away from my own daughter? And why had I never suspected a thing? I sat there that morning, listening to his lies with tears burning at the back of my eyes, feeling like I was watching the destruction of my life from the outside. Malik didn't look at me, not once. He sat tall, confident, pristine in his tailored suit. When the judge asked if he had anything more to say, Malik stood and made a show of sighing heavily, as though burdened by the weight of loving someone as broken as me. "Your Honor," Malik said, lowering his voice in feigned sorrow, "I just want what's best for our daughter. My wife isn't a bad person, she just struggles with emotional regulation. I've tried to support her, but I can't risk Amara's well-being anymore." My hands curled into fists. The audacity nearly knocked the breath out of me. He was the one who disappeared for nights without explanation. He was the one who drained our savings account claiming business emergencies. He was the one who constantly criticized me, belittled my efforts, and told me I wasn't enough. But I didn't speak. I couldn't. The judge was moments away from reading the verdict when the double doors to the courtroom opened. When I saw Amara walk in, alone, small yet strangely steady, I thought I was hallucinating. She was supposed to be with my sister, waiting outside. I had begged my sister not to bring her anywhere near the courthouse, but apparently fate had its own plans. Amara walked forward, her shoes tapping faint echoes across the marble floor. She didn't look at me. She didn't look at her father. She looked at the judge with the seriousness of someone far older than 7. Malik's reaction was immediate, explosive. "Amara," he barked, "get out of here. This isn't a place for—" "Silence, Mr. Malik," the judge snapped. But Malik kept going, panic rising in his voice as he shouted at one of the guards. "How could you let a child in? Remove her immediately." The judge raised his hand sharply. "The child clearly has something important to say. I will hear her." My breath caught in my throat. What could she possibly want to show? Had Malik manipulated her too? Had he filled her head with lies? Had she come to testify against me? But then she said it, the sentence that would change everything. "Your Honor, can I show you something my mommy doesn't know?" Malik froze, completely froze. His face went pale, then red, then pale again. The judge nodded. "Go ahead, sweetheart." Amara lifted her cracked tablet. A clerk hurried to connect it to the courtroom monitor. Malik surged halfway out of his chair. "Your Honor, this is inappropriate." "Sit down," the judge thundered. The monitor flickered, then lit up. A video loaded. My heart stopped. Malik whispered, "No, no, no." But it was too late. Amara pressed play, and what the video revealed would destroy everything Malik had built against me. The room fell completely silent as the footage began, and I realized my daughter had known something all along, something I hadn't, something that would expose the truth. The monitor flickered again, and for a moment the entire courtroom seemed to stop breathing. The footage was shaky, taken from a low angle as if the device had been hidden behind something. A faint rustling could be heard, followed by the familiar sound of our living room door opening. I recognized the beige rug immediately. I recognized the corner of the coffee table. But what I didn't recognize was the laughter, a laugh I had never heard from Malik in years. It wasn't the tired, forced chuckle he gave me at home. It wasn't the strained exhale he used with Amara. It was carefree, intimate, soaked in affection that had not belonged to me for a long time. Malik entered the frame with a woman right behind him, Selena, Dr. Selena Hart, but not the polished, courtroom-perfect Selena in her blazer and glasses. This Selena wore soft loungewear and had her hair down, curled slightly at the ends. She walked into my house with the casual confidence of someone who had been there many times before. My chest tightened. In the video, Malik closed the door and immediately pulled her into his arms, kissing the side of her neck with a familiarity that shattered what little strength I had left. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Attorney Dawson stiffened beside me. Across the aisle, Malik's lawyer, Mr. Hanley, turned chalk white. Selena giggled in the video. "Are you sure your plan will work?" she whispered, her voice dripping with smugness. "Your wife is so easy to fool." I felt the blood drain from my face. My ears rang. My body went numb. Malik's voice followed, casual, arrogant, dripping with the confidence of a man who believed he had already won. "She's soft," he said. "Too emotional. She won't fight back. She'll break exactly the way we need her to. And the money, don't worry, it's already moved to your account." Attorney Dawson inhaled sharply. The judge leaned forward with so much intensity I thought he might stand. My fingers dug into my knees. They had taken the money. They had planned to drain everything. All while I cried myself to sleep, wondering why my marriage was falling apart. Selena settled onto the couch in the video, swinging her legs over Malik's lap. "And the custody hearing?" she asked, swirling a glass of wine. "What if her lawyer refutes what I said?" Malik chuckled. "I already recorded her last week during her breakdown. Remember? I'll provoke her on the stand like we practiced. She'll snap. She always snaps. And when she does..." He leaned back as if delivering a punchline. "She'll look exactly like the unstable mess you described in your report." I felt my heart shatter in slow motion. Every doubt I had about myself these past months, all of it had been engineered, manufactured, constructed to destroy me. On the screen, Selena laughed. "And the kid? Amara's so attached to her mother." Malik waved dismissively. "The kid is easy. New toys, new house, new country. Children adapt. You'll be her new mother in no time." Something inside me broke. I couldn't hear anything anymore. The courtroom, the murmurs, the gasps, they all became distant echoes. But then over all of it, I heard a tiny sniffle. I turned. Amara was staring at me from beside the clerk, tears balancing on her lower lashes. Eyes wide with hurt but filled with determination. My daughter had known. She had seen all of this. She had kept it inside her tiny heart. She had carried this secret alone. Back in the video, Malik and Selena clinked wine glasses. "To a new life," Selena said. "One where she's out of the picture for good." Malik smirked. "And one where everything she owns becomes ours." The video ended abruptly. The monitor went black. Silence swallowed the courtroom whole. For a full 5 seconds, no one moved. No one breathed. Then suddenly, chaos. "This is illegal!" Malik exploded, leaping to his feet as if the chair burned him. "The video is fake. It's edited. It's..." "Officers, restrain him," the judge commanded. his voice colder than winter stone. 2 guards rushed forward, grabbing Malik before he could reach the clerk's desk. Malik thrashed violently. "You don't understand. This is all a setup. She manipulated the child. She planned this." "Enough," the judge thundered. His gavel slammed with a force that echoed through my bones. "Mr. Malik, another outburst and I will have you gagged." Malik froze mid-struggle as the guards pinned his arms behind him. Selena slipped lower in her seat, trying to disappear, shaking uncontrollably. The judge turned to the clerk. "Rewind the video." "Your Honor?" "Rewind it," the judge repeated with icy authority. "I want to see every second, every sound, every truth." The clerk did so, replaying the part where Malik mentioned the stolen money. People in the gallery whispered, shock turned to disgust. The judge looked at Attorney Hanley. "Did you know your client was committing fraud, theft, and perjury?" Hanley stuttered something unintelligible, his face ashen. "No, Your Honor, I wasn't informed. You submitted manipulated evidence to this court," the judge said sharply. "Whether knowingly or not, you will answer to the Ethics Committee." My gaze drifted to Amara again. She stood perfectly still, watching everything with a maturity that made my chest ache. She had done this. She had changed everything. The judge then turned to her gently. "Sweetheart," he said, voice softening, "can you come here?" She nodded and walked forward. Malik yelled again, voice cracking. "Amara, don't say another word." "Silence him," the judge ordered. A guard clamped a firm hand over Malik's shoulder, forcing him down. Amara looked up at the judge with big, brave eyes. "Do you know why you recorded this video?" the judge asked softly. She nodded. "Because Daddy told Auntie Selena that Mommy would never know," she whispered. "But Mommy deserved to know. And you deserve to know, too." My breath caught. The judge blinked slowly, visibly moved. "Did anyone tell you to bring this video today?" "No," she said. "I came because they were lying. They said Mommy was bad, but Mommy's not bad." My vision blurred. My lips trembled. My daughter continued, voice trembling but strong. "I didn't want to lose my Mommy." The judge exhaled slowly, deeply, as if he were absorbing the weight of the universe. Then he leaned back in his chair and said the words that would change everything. "This court has seen enough." The judge's voice cut through the air with a finality so sharp that even the guards stopped moving for a heartbeat. "This court has seen enough," he repeated, his gaze sweeping across the room like a storm about to break. Malik's breathing grew uneven as the guards kept him restrained, and Selena looked as if she were shrinking into the wooden bench, her trembling hands clasped tightly together as though she could reverse time by sheer desperation. I sat frozen, unable to move, unable to blink, unable to fully grasp the reality unfolding around me. For months I had been drowning, gasping for air beneath Malik's lies, and in a single moment, one 7-year-old girl's courage had turned the tide so swiftly, so violently, that the entire room was still catching up. The judge stood, an unusual move that commanded immediate silence. "Before I deliver my ruling," he said, his tone both solemn and furious, "I need clarity." His eyes, sharp as blades, locked onto Malik. "Mr. Malik, you have the right to remain silent while this court reviews your actions. I strongly suggest you exercise that right." Malik opened his mouth, but a guard tightened his hold, and Malik's jaw snapped shut. The judge then turned to Selena. "Dr. Hart," he said, spitting the title as if it were poison, "your testimony under oath was used to support fraudulent claims. Do you wish to explain yourself before this court proceeds?" Selena's lips trembled. She gripped the edge of the bench. Your Honor, I didn't, he told me." "Enough," the judge cut her off sharply. "I've already witnessed the truth through your own words on that recording." He then redirected his gaze to Amara. His tone softened. "Sweetheart, you were very brave today," she sniffled, wiping her cheeks with the back of her hand. "I just didn't want Mommy to cry anymore," she whispered, and my heart shattered all over again. The judge nodded. "You did the right thing." Then he looked at the clerk. "Please escort the child to her mother." Amara rushed toward me, her small arms wrapping around my waist. I hugged her tightly, pressing my face into her hair, inhaling the scent of her shampoo, mixed with the faint bitterness of the courtroom air. I whispered, "You're safe. Mommy's right here." She clung to me like she'd never let go again. The judge resumed speaking. "Based on what was presented, this court must address multiple violations." He gestured to the guard restraining Malik. "Fraud, perjury, theft from a joint marital account, conspiracy to manipulate court proceedings, emotional abuse, and endangerment of a minor. Malik's head hung low, sweat glistening across his forehead. Regarding Dr. Selena Hart, the judge continued, we have perjury, professional misconduct, conspiracy, and falsification of psychological records. Selena looked like she might faint. Attorney Hanley slumped into his chair, rubbing his temples as if desperately wishing himself invisible. Before I deliver the final ruling, the judge said, I will ask Attorney Dawson if the plaintiff, Mrs. Amina, has anything she wishes to say. Dawson glanced at me. My throat tightened. I rose slowly, still clutching Amara's hand. My legs felt weak but steady enough to carry the truth buried inside me. I faced the judge. Your Honor, I began, voice shaking but clear. I loved my husband. I trusted him. I never imagined he could do something like this. I didn't know the truth until today, until my daughter showed it. I'm just grateful the truth finally came out. My eyes flicked to Amara, who squeezed my hand in silent support. The judge nodded solemnly. Thank you, Mrs. Amina. You may sit. I lowered myself into the seat, still trembling. Then the judge lifted the divorce file Malik had submitted, thick with lies and fabrications. Mr. Malik, he said, your petition for divorce is hereby dismissed. The gavel slammed once, firm and decisive. Malik's shoulders collapsed inward as if the blow had struck him physically. The judge continued. Furthermore, this court grants full custody of the minor, Amara, to her mother, Mrs. Amina, effective immediately. My breath escaped me in a sob. Amara threw her arms around my neck. You're not going anywhere, I whispered. As for the assets, the judge continued, all accounts belonging to Mr. Malik will be frozen, pending a full investigation into stolen funds. Any property jointly owned shall remain under the control of Mrs. Amina until the investigation is concluded. Malik jerked against the guards. You can't do this. She's trying to destroy me. Silence him, the judge ordered, and the guard pressed down harder. Malik gasped but fell quiet. Finally, the judge turned to me. Mrs. Amina, he said gently, given the circumstances, do you wish to file for divorce today? I looked at Malik, at the man I once loved, the father of my child, the person who had built a future with me while secretly constructing a trap behind my back. There was nothing left to feel but the ache of betrayal. Yes, Your Honor, I said. I want a divorce. Malik's head snapped up, but the guards held him firm. The judge lifted his gavel. The court grants the divorce on the grounds of adultery, fraud, and emotional cruelty by the husband. The gavel struck again, but the judge still wasn't finished. Officers, he said, his voice echoing through the room, take Mr. Malik and Dr. Selena Hart into custody pending formal charges. Gasps filled the gallery. Malik shouted, but the guards dragged him toward the exit. Selena burst into tears, begging incoherently as another guard cuffed her wrists. The room erupted into murmurs as the two were pulled away, their carefully constructed facades collapsing into panic and disgrace. Through all of it, I didn't move. I held Amara and she held me, our breaths sinking, our hearts slowly settling from the chaos. Attorney Dawson placed a hand on my shoulder. It's over, he said softly. He can't hurt you anymore. I nodded, unable to speak. The judge dismissed the court and slowly people began to file out, whispering about the shocking revelation, the betrayal, the bravery of a child. But I didn't hear them. My world had narrowed to one small hand holding mine tightly. I bent down to Amara. Princess, I whispered, brushing her cheek. Why did you keep the video a secret? She looked up at me with those big, clear eyes. Because Daddy said you must never know, she whispered. But I wanted you to know. I didn't want you to be sad anymore. Tears filled my eyes. You saved me, I said. She smiled softly. I love you, Mommy. I hugged her close, breathing her in, letting her warmth wash away every lie, every bruise Malik had left on my spirit. For the first time in months, I felt free. The hallway outside the courtroom buzzed with tension, murmurs, and scattered gasps from people who had witnessed what felt less like a legal proceeding and more like the unmasking of an elaborate crime. But none of it touched me. Not really. All I felt was the soft weight of Amara's hand wrapped around mine. Her tiny fingers curled tightly as if she feared I might vanish if she let go. The bailiffs escorted Malik and Selena through a side exit, both handcuffed, both pale with the realization that their perfectly crafted plan had collapsed in front of a room full of witnesses. Malik shouted something. muffled, frantic, but the door slammed behind him before I could hear the words. Maybe that was for the best. I had heard enough from him for a lifetime. Attorney Dawson guided me to a bench along the hallway wall. "Take a moment," he said gently. "You've been through more today than most people endure in a year." My legs felt heavy as I sat down, and Amara climbed into my lap without being asked. I held her tight. Her small heartbeat thudded steadily against my chest, grounding me. I pressed a kiss to her forehead, and she sighed softly. Dawson stood nearby, giving us space but staying close in case I needed support. I stared at the opposite wall, unable to fully process how quickly everything had changed. I came into the courtroom terrified, expecting to lose everything: my home, my finances, and worst of all, my daughter. Instead, I gained something I thought had been slipping away for months: the truth and freedom. After a few minutes, Dawson cleared his throat gently. "There will be some follow-up steps," he said, sitting beside me. "Formal documentation of the divorce, asset protection motions, and we'll need to coordinate with the investigators once Malik's charges are processed." I nodded slowly. "I understand. And I want you to know," he added carefully, "your daughter's testimony, verbally and through that video, was handled beautifully by the judge. Not all judges are that attuned to children. You were fortunate today." I looked down at Amara, who was playing with the string on my blouse absent-mindedly. "She was so brave," I whispered. My voice cracked. "I didn't even know she knew anything." Dawson gave a sympathetic nod. "Children see more than we think." I swallowed, realizing how much emotional weight Amara must have carried alone. "Princess," I whispered, brushing her cheek, "why didn't you tell me before?" She paused her fiddling and looked up, her eyes wide and honest. "Because I thought Daddy would be mad at me," she said softly. "He said if I told you anything, then we would all get in trouble. And he said Mommy might have to go live somewhere else forever." My breath caught. Those words hit me with the force of a blow. Malik had manipulated her, too. He had woven his lies into her world, into her fears, into the very foundation of her trust. I hugged her tightly. "No one is taking me away," I whispered fiercely. "Not ever, you hear me?" She nodded, burying her face into my shoulder. Just then, the courtroom door opened and Judge Thompson stepped out. His expression softened when he saw us. "Mrs. Amina," he said gently, "do you have a moment?" A ripple of instinctive dread passed through me. Old habits. The fear of bad news conditioned by months of Malik's emotional ambushes. I nodded and stood, holding Amara's hand. The judge motioned for us to follow him into his small conference chamber, a quiet space lined with shelves of legal books. "I wanted to speak to you privately," he said as we entered. "First, I want to commend your daughter again. Her courage today was extraordinary." I smiled weakly. "She saved us both." Judge Thompson nodded. "She did. And I want you to understand something important. None of this reflects on your ability as a mother. In fact, it shows the opposite. Your daughter felt safe enough to come forward. That says more about your parenting than anything your husband tried to fabricate." My throat tightened with emotion. "Thank you, Your Honor," I whispered. "I needed to hear that." He offered a kind smile. "I also want to assure you that protective measures are being put in place. Malik will not have the opportunity to contact either of you without going through the appropriate legal channels. Considering the severity of his actions, it may be some time before he's granted even supervised visitation, if at all." Relief washed through me, so strong I wobbled slightly. The judge noticed. "You've endured something deeply painful, Mrs. Amina. Make sure you take care of yourself." After he dismissed us, I stepped back into the hallway with Amara. The world felt different. Lighter. Not healed yet, far from it, but no longer suffocating. Dawson rejoined us. "You're free to go," he said. "I'll handle the rest and call you tomorrow with updates." I thanked him sincerely, then guided Amara toward the exit. The automatic doors slid open, letting in a breeze that felt shockingly fresh after the heavy courtroom air. The parking lot stretched before us, sun-drenched and quiet, as if the world outside had no idea my life had just imploded and then rebuilt itself all in the span of an hour. Amara tugged my hand. "Can we go get ice cream?" I stared at her, surprised by the simplicity of her request. After everything she had witnessed, her father's betrayal, adults shouting, a courtroom full of strangers, she wanted ice cream. My lips curved into the first genuine smile I had felt in months. "Yes." I said softly. "We can get ice cream." She grinned, skipping slightly as we walked to the car. Once she was buckled in the back seat, I closed my door and rested my forehead against the steering wheel. For a long moment, I just breathed, in, out, in again. The adrenaline slowly drained from my system, leaving behind exhaustion so deep it felt like it lived in my bones. But beneath the exhaustion was something steadier, something warm, a flicker of strength returning to me. I turned the ignition. The engine hummed to life, and I drove. The sun filtered through the windshield, painting the road in gold. Amara hummed softly behind me, the tune light and airy. As we pulled into the ice cream shop parking lot, I glanced at her through the rearview mirror. She smiled back at me, wide, innocent, full of hope. And for the first time in a very long time, hope didn't feel dangerous. It felt real. It felt earned. We walked inside, hand in hand, the smell of sugar and waffle cones filling the air. "Mommy," she said as she studied the flavors, "are we going to be okay now?" I crouched beside her, brushing a curl away from her face. "Yes," I said firmly. "We are." She smiled, satisfied with the answer. But even as I said the words, even as peace settled over us in that tiny ice cream shop, a quiet unease whispered at the edges of my mind, an intuition I couldn't ignore. This wasn't the end. Malik wasn't done. And somewhere beneath the sweetness of this moment, the next chapter of our fight was already stirring. The evening sun hung low in the sky as we drove home from the ice cream shop, casting warm shades of orange across the quiet streets. Amara licked her cone happily in the back seat, completely unaware of the way my mind churned beneath the calm exterior I tried so hard to maintain. I kept my voice light, humming along to the soft music on the radio, but inside my thoughts spun with questions I wasn't ready to face. What would happen next? How deep did Malik's betrayal truly run? And how much danger had Amara been in without me realizing? As I pulled into our driveway, I scanned the property automatically. The habit of a woman who had spent months walking on eggshells, never fully sure of what mood she'd find her husband in. The house looked still, quiet, exactly as we had left it, but something in my chest tightened. Amara hopped out of the car and ran toward the front door. "Mommy, can I open it?" she called. I forced a smile. "Go ahead, princess." She turned the key and pushed the door open. The familiar scent of home washed over me. Vanilla candles, laundry detergent, a faint hint of lemon from the cleaner I used last night. Everything seemed normal, yet my instincts told me normal was an illusion. Amara kicked off her shoes and ran to the living room, plopping onto the couch with her tablet. I set my purse down, but my eyes caught on something near the hallway. Malik's jacket, the one he wore 2 nights ago. I had left it hanging by the closet after he tossed it on the floor during one of his silent tantrums, irritation boiling beneath the surface of his carefully measured voice. I picked it up, ready to shove it into a donation bag just to rid the house of his presence when something slipped from the pocket. A folded piece of paper. My stomach clenched. I crouched and picked it up, unfolding it slowly. It was a printed receipt for a storage unit, rented under Malik's name, dated 3 months ago, around the same time he began accusing me of being unstable and disconnected from reality. My breath hitched. Why would he need a storage unit, and why hide it? I felt a cold rush down my spine. There was more he hadn't told me, more secrets waiting behind another door. Before I could process it fully, my phone buzzed in my pocket. Unknown number. I hesitated, then answered cautiously. "Hello?" Silence. Then a shaky voice. "Amina?" It was Malik's mother, her voice thick with panic. "Oh, thank God you picked up." I stiffened instinctively, bracing for the judgment I had endured so many times before. "Good evening," I said, my tone guarded. "Is everything all right?" She exhaled shakily. "No, nothing is all right. I just got a call from the police. They said they arrested my son." I closed my eyes. "Yes," I replied softly. "They did," she sniffled. "They wouldn't tell me why. They said it was serious." "It is," I said, my voice steady. "He lied. He cheated. He stole from me. And he tried to take my daughter away." Silence stretched over the line. "Amina," she whispered, sounding broken. "I didn't know. I swear, I didn't know he was capable of something like this." I believed her. For all her sternness, Malik's mother had always loved her granddaughter and had tried, in her own rigid way, to maintain peace between us. "I don't know what to do," she continued. "Can I see Amara? Not today, but soon?" I glanced at the living room where Amara giggled softly at a video on her tablet. Yes, I said eventually, but carefully, and I need time. She breathed a sigh of relief. Thank you, truly. After hanging up, I tucked the storage receipt into my purse, choosing not to let it darken the fragile peace of the evening. Tonight belonged to Amara. She had been through enough. I walked to the couch and sat beside her, wrapping an arm around her small shoulders. "Mommy," she said between giggles, "look at this silly cat." I smiled, watching the screen for a moment, letting her laughter soak into the cracks Malik had left in me. "It's very silly," I agreed. The rest of the evening passed quietly. Dinner, bath time, a bedtime story. I watched her eyelids droop, her breathing steady, peaceful. I brushed a curl from her forehead. "Good night, my brave girl," I whispered before leaving her room. When I stepped into the hallway, the house felt too silent, heavy, as if holding its breath. I locked the front and back doors, then walked into the kitchen to pour a glass of water. The moonlight spilled in through the window above the sink, casting eerie shadows across the counter. My gaze drifted toward the purse, where I'd hidden the storage receipt. I knew I wouldn't sleep unless I saw what Malik had tucked away. What else he'd prepared while pretending to be my husband. What other lies he had built behind the scenes. I pulled out the receipt. The address was on the other side of town, in an industrial area. Unit 114. I checked the time. 9:42 p.m. The place would be closed now, but tomorrow I would go. I slid the paper back into the purse and turned off the kitchen light, ready to head to bed. As I walked down the hallway, a soft knock echoed through the quiet house. My blood went cold. No one ever came to our door this late. My pulse quickened as the knocking came again. Gentle, hesitant, but insistent. I grabbed my phone and crept toward the peephole. When I looked through it, my breath caught. A woman stood on the porch. A woman I had never seen before. In her hands, she held a small envelope. Her eyes were puffy, swollen from crying, and when she lifted her gaze toward the door, the porch light revealed her face more clearly, tired, anxious, and filled with a fear that mirrored my own. I unlocked the door slowly, but kept the chain on. "Can I help you?" I asked through the narrow gap. Her lips quivered. "Are you Amina?" "Yes." She swallowed hard. "I'm sorry to come so late, but I didn't know where else to go." She lifted the envelope with trembling fingers. "You don't know me, but Malik hurt me too." The chain on the door rattled slightly as I steadied my hand against it, unsure whether to open it wider or shut it immediately. The woman stood motionless on the porch, her breath visible in the cool night air, as if even the temperature itself acknowledged the heaviness she carried with her. Her eyes, red, tired, and shimmering with a sorrow I recognized too easily, never drifted away from mine. I hesitated, torn between caution and the instinct that told me this wasn't a threat, but another unanswered question wearing human skin. "Who are you?" I asked softly, keeping my voice steady even as my heart thudded in my chest. She swallowed hard. "My name is Lena," she said. "Please, I need to talk to you." Her fingers tightened around the envelope. "It's about Malik." His name cut through the air like a blade. I felt myself tense, the instinctive recoil of a person who had been burned too many times by the same flame. Still, something about her trembling posture, the desperation she couldn't hide even if she tried, pushed me to unlatch the chain. The door opened with a soft click. "Come in," I said gently. She stepped inside slowly, glancing around the dimly lit entryway as if afraid Malik himself might appear from the shadows. I led her into the living room, where she clutched the envelope to her chest like a lifeline. She refused to sit at first, pacing with small, frantic steps. I watched her carefully, waiting. Finally, she stopped moving and faced me. "I'm not here to cause trouble," she whispered. I didn't know what to do. And when the police came looking for him today, I realized everything I believed was a lie. My breath caught. "You knew Malik?" She let out a broken laugh. "I thought I did." Tears filled her eyes again. She wiped them quickly. "I was seeing him, but I didn't know he was married. I swear I didn't know." My stomach clenched painfully. A part of me felt like collapsing under the weight of yet another betrayal. Another layer of deceit exposed like rot under chipped paint. Another truth I wasn't prepared for but had to accept. Malik had lied to her too. Of course he had. "When did you meet him?" I asked quietly. "Last year," she replied, "around the time he started renting that apartment near the river. He told me he needed space from a toxic ex-girlfriend who was stalking him. She choked on a bitter laugh. I didn't know I was the other woman. I didn't know you even existed until today. The mention of the apartment made my pulse spike. An apartment. Malik had claimed that he stayed late at work, that he slept in his office whenever deadlines piled up. Now the truth unfolded itself, cruel and mocking. He said he'd been saving money, she continued, her voice barely audible. He said he and I were building a future together. She held out the envelope. I stared at it, unsure whether to take it. What's inside? Proof, she whispered. Proof of the things he did. Proof I didn't know I had until today. She pushed it toward me again. My fingers hovered before I finally took it. The envelope felt heavier than paper should. Inside, something shifted softly. I didn't open it yet. Why bring it to me? I asked. Her eyes shimmered. Because I saw on the news that you were in court today. Because I saw that little girl, your daughter, standing up for you. And because when the police came to question me, I realized he wasn't just lying to me. She wrapped her arms around herself as though trying to hold in the pieces of a shattered heart. He was using me. For money. For alibis. He said he needed help transferring funds he couldn't move himself. He made it sound like a favor. I believed him. My blood turned cold. Malik had done more damage than I realized. So much more. I didn't want to believe the police, she whispered. I still wanted to believe he cared. Isn't that pathetic? No, I said quietly. It's human. She let out a trembling breath. I thought about keeping all this, pretending none of it happened, but your daughter, her voice cracked. She's the reason I'm here. She's just a little girl and she was stronger than all of us. If she could tell the truth, then so can I. A warm, painful ache grew in my throat. Thank you, I said softly. You didn't have to come. She shook her head firmly. Yes, I did. Silence drifted between us until she finally straightened. There's something else, she added. Something you need to know. My heart clenched again. What is it? Her hands trembled at her sides. The storage unit you found? He took me there once. Just once. I inhaled sharply. What's inside? Her eyes flicked toward the hallway where Amara slept. Then back to me. Things, she whispered. Documents, boxes, a lot of cash, a lot of electronics. I didn't ask where he got them. I should have. But there was something else, too. She looked down, unable to hold my gaze. A picture of you, torn in half. A chill danced down my spine. Lena, I said slowly, why are you telling me all this now? She looked up, her face tight with regret and fear. Because I think Malik was planning something bigger than just leaving you. I think he was preparing to disappear, and I think he planned to take your daughter with him. My breath left my lungs in a single painful rush. No, I whispered. He wouldn't. But I stopped. Because now I knew. He would. And he had already started. The cash, the apartment, the lies, the storage unit, everything aligned into a picture I wished I could unsee. Lena wiped her tears. I'm so sorry. I steadied myself against the couch. Thank you for coming, I whispered. You did the right thing. She nodded shakily. If you need anything at all, I'll help. Then she turned and walked toward the door. I didn't stop her. I couldn't. When the door closed, I looked down at the envelope in my hand. Whatever secrets Malik hid inside were now mine to uncover. And tomorrow I would open every truth he buried. I stood in the middle of the living room long after Lena's footsteps had faded down the walkway, the envelope still clutched in my hand like something alive, something that pulsed with the weight of answers I wasn't sure I wanted. The house was quiet. So quiet that the hum of the refrigerator sounded like a distant engine. My eyes drifted down the hallway toward Amara's room. Her soft nightlight glowed beneath the crack under the door, warm and gentle, a reminder of what all of this was truly about. She was safe. She was sleeping, and Malik was in custody. But the envelope, and Lena's words. They changed the ground beneath my feet all over again. I exhaled slowly, then finally tore the envelope open. Inside were several items, printed bank transfer receipts, a key card, photos of Malik and Lena together, pictures where Lena's eyes looked full of affection while Malik smiled in that familiar manipulative way that now made my skin crawl. And then there was a final sheet, folded separately. Something about the way it was tucked in, deliberate, cautious, made my hand shake as I unfolded it. It was a copy of an email, sent from Malik to a foreign address I didn't recognize. The subject line was simple and haunting: final arrangements. My heart pounded in my ears as I scanned the text. It was coded in vague terms, references to travel plans, unsettled matters, and ensuring the package is delivered without delay. But one line made my stomach twist violently. The girl will not be an issue once we relocate. The girl, my daughter. A cold wave of nausea rolled through me, forcing me to sit down before my knees buckled. Malik had been preparing to take her, not fight for custody, not prove I was unfit, but physically take her out of the country. My hands trembled as I read the email again, slower this time, letting every horrifying implication settle like shards in my chest. He had planned everything: the accusations, the lies, the false evidence, the psychological warfare. And had Zariah not shown that video, had she not been braver than all the adults around her, he might have succeeded. A door creaked softly at the end of the hall. I turned quickly. Amara's small silhouette stepped out, rubbing her eyes. "Mommy?" she whispered, sleepy and confused. I folded the papers quickly and forced a steady breath. "Hey, sweetheart," I said gently. "Why are you awake?" She walked over, dragging her blanket behind her. "I heard talking. Are you okay?" Her voice was soft, concerned, too perceptive for her age. I lifted her onto my lap, holding her tightly. "Mommy's okay," I whispered into her hair. "Everything's okay now." She rested her head against my shoulder. "Is Daddy coming home?" The question sliced through me. "No, baby," I said gently. "Daddy won't be coming home tonight." She didn't ask why, she didn't cry. She simply nodded, as if part of her already knew. "Can I sleep with you?" she asked. "Of course." I carried her to my room, tucked her in under the blanket, and lay beside her, watching her tiny hand curl around my arm as she drifted back to sleep. But sleep didn't come for me. Instead, my mind spun with questions twisting into darker corners. Who was Malik emailing? Where exactly was he planning to go? And what else was in that storage unit he'd kept hidden for months? I needed answers. Not tomorrow, not after the dust settled. I needed them now. Tonight, before anyone else connected to Malik tried to intervene or disappear. I slid out of bed carefully, making sure not to wake Amara. In the kitchen, I grabbed my keys and the key card from Lena's envelope. I scribbled a quick note and left it on my nightstand just in case Amara woke and panicked. Then I stepped outside into the night air. The drive across town felt both too long and too short. The industrial district was nearly deserted, the streetlights flickering over empty warehouses and locked gates. The storage facility sat at the end of a narrow road, its massive metal gate closed, but its after-hours keypad glowing faintly in the dark. I parked, stepped out, and approached the keypad. My hands were clammy, my heartbeat uneven. I slid the card. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a beep sounded, and the gate rumbled open. The cold night wind swept past me as I entered, the rows of storage units stretching ahead like endless metal tombs, holding secrets no one was meant to uncover. Unit 114 sat near the back, its number faded but visible beneath the dim security lights. I hesitated before unlocking it, the heavy metal door cold against my fingertips. I slid the key in, turned it. The lock clicked. As I lifted the door, it groaned upward, revealing the contents inside. At first, it looked ordinary. Boxes stacked neatly, plastic bins, a small safe, but then my eyes adjusted, and I froze. Near the back wall sat a suitcase I recognized instantly. Amara's old pink luggage with stickers she had placed on it herself. My heart dropped. Next to it were several sealed envelopes labeled with dates, all in Malik's handwriting. A stack of cash, neatly bundled, sat beside a burner phone, and mounted on one of the boxes, like a twisted trophy, was a photograph of me, torn down the middle. My face ripped through my eyes, my breath came in shallow gasps. This wasn't just preparation. This was obsession, anger, intent. As I stepped deeper into the unit, something else caught my eye, a folder with my name on it. Just my name, nothing else. My fingers trembled as I picked it up and opened it. Inside were copies of documents, my medical records, old prescriptions, emails Malik had printed from years ago, notes scribbled in his handwriting. Words like emotional instability, patterns of distress, history to use in case of legal issues. My vision blurred. He had been collecting things, preparing, studying me like an enemy he needed to defeat. I backed away, one step then another. Then behind me, a sound, soft, incorrect, a footstep. My heart stopped. I turned slowly, and standing at the entrance of the unit, silhouetted by the weak light overhead, was a figure I had hoped never to see again tonight. Malik. His eyes, wild, frantic, unhinged, locked onto mine, and he smiled. For a moment I could not move, could not think, could not breathe. Malik's body filled the entrance of the storage unit like a shadow made of something venomous and alive, his presence thick enough to steal the air from my lungs. He looked nothing like the polished, calculating man who used to stand in our kitchen pretending to be a devoted husband. His eyes were wild, too bright, too sharp, and his chest rose and fell in frantic waves as if he had been running, or escaping, or hunting. "Amina," he said softly, the smile stretching across his face in a way that made my blood run cold. "I knew you'd come here." His voice was quiet, almost gentle, but beneath it simmered something feral, the kind of tone a predator used when cornering prey. I forced myself to stand straighter, masking the tremor in my bones. "You're supposed to be in custody," I whispered. "You were arrested." He laughed, a low, humorless sound. "You think they could hold me on lies? On your little show today?" My mind raced. Had he escaped? Had someone helped him? I didn't know. I only knew I had to survive. He stepped inside the unit, closing the distance between us inch by inch. I backed away, but boxes blocked me in. I could smell the sweat on him, sharp and metallic, and something in his gaze flickered with an unnerving kind of triumph. "You've been snooping," he murmured, eyes sliding over the open folder, the torn photograph, the suitcase. "You always were too curious for your own good." I swallowed hard. "You plan to take her," I said, my voice breaking. "You plan to take Amara away from me, away from everything." Malik tilted his head as though amused. "I did what I had to. You were becoming unpredictable, emotional, weak." His eyes darkened. "And she deserves better than that." Rage flared through my fear. "You wanted to kidnap her," I snapped. "You wanted to disappear with her, start some new life built on lies. She is my daughter." "She's mine too," he growled, taking a step closer. "And unlike you, I know what's best for her. You cling to her like a life raft. It's pathetic." I steadied my breath, refusing to let him see my panic. "You don't get to talk about what's best for her," I said quietly. "She exposed you. She saved me. She saved herself." His jaw twitched, fury flashing through his expression. "That stupid video," he hissed. "Do you think a child understands anything? Do you think she did it out of some noble reason? She's 7, Amina. She's easily manipulated." Something snapped inside me. "You were the one manipulating her," I shot back, "poisoning her against me, using her, and she still chose the truth." Malik's smile fell, replaced by something sharper, colder. "It doesn't matter," he murmured. "None of this matters anymore." His hand slipped behind his back, and for a terrifying second I thought he might be reaching for a weapon. Instead, he pulled out a small silver object, a remote key fob. He pressed a button. Behind him, the storage unit door began to rumble downward, closing us in. My pulse skyrocketed. "Malik," I whispered, stepping back instinctively. "Don't." He shrugged lightly, the gesture chillingly casual. "We need privacy. You and I have unfinished business, and I'm not leaving without my daughter." My heart slammed painfully in my chest. "She's not here," I said sharply. "She's home, asleep, safe." His lips curled. "Then after we're done here, you'll take me to her." The door clanged shut, sealing us in. The dim overhead bulb flickered, casting jagged shadows across his face. He moved forward. I moved back. He grabbed my wrist, hard. Pain shot up my arm. "Let me go," I demanded, struggling. "You don't want to do this." "I didn't want any of this," he snapped, tightening his grip. "You forced my hand, you humiliated me, you ruined me." "You ruined yourself," I said through clenched teeth. "You're the one who lied, cheated, stole. You did this." His eyes blazed. "You could have stayed quiet," he spat. "You could have let me handle things, but you had to play the victim." "I was the victim," I hissed, "and now everyone knows it." He shoved me backward, slamming me against a stack of boxes. My head spun. Darkness crept into the edges of my vision. But somewhere beneath the fear, something inside me hardened. Malik had taken enough, hurt enough, controlled enough. Not tonight, not anymore. As he reached for me again, I grabbed the nearest object on the ground, a heavy metal flashlight, and swung it with every ounce of strength left in me. It connected with his forearm. He roared in pain, stumbling back. The flashlight clattered to the floor. "You're going to regret that," he snarled, advancing. But adrenaline surged through me. I lunged toward the storage door, searching blindly for the manual release. My fingers brushed a metal cord hanging near the corner. Malik grabbed my shoulder, yanking me back, but I held onto the cord and pulled with all my strength. The lock disengaged. The door screeched open halfway. Cold air rushed in. Malik lunged. I slipped under the opening, scraping my knees on the concrete. Malik clawed after me, grabbing my ankle. Pain shot up my leg. I kicked hard, once, twice. My heel struck his jaw. His grip loosened. I scrambled to my feet, sprinting across the lot toward my car. Malik dragged himself out under the door and stumbled after me, yelling my name like a curse. I fumbled for my keys, hands shaking uncontrollably. I reached the door, threw myself inside, locked it. Malik slammed his fists against the window. "You can't take her from me," he screamed, spittle hitting the glass. "She's mine, mine!" I started the engine. The headlights washed over him, revealing the true madness twisting his features. "No," I whispered, meeting his gaze with a steadiness I didn't feel. "She was never yours." The moment he lunged again, I floored the gas. He jumped back to avoid being hit. Gravel flew behind me as I tore out of the lot, my body trembling violently. I didn't stop until I reached a police station. That night, Malik was arrested again, this time with multiple new charges added, including attempted kidnapping and assault. He wouldn't be seeing freedom for a very long time. When I returned home, Amara was still asleep, curled peacefully beneath her blanket. I climbed into bed beside her, holding her gently, tears soaking the pillow. We were safe, truly safe. The next morning, as sunlight filled the room, she opened her eyes and smiled. "Morning, Mommy." I brushed her hair back and whispered, "Morning, my brave girl." And for the first time in a long time, I felt the beginning of peace.